Hey guys, welcome into episode 1 of AL.com recruiting. We're excited to kick this segment off, this show off. I'm Simone Eli, CBS 42 sports anchor here in Birmingham. He is Ben Thomas, high school reporter for AL.com. Behind the scenes, we have our man, Patrick Greenfield. He's been doing all the work. He's the guy that makes us look good, our producer, all the graphics. So he is behind the scenes making everything happen. But again, we're excited to welcome you to episode 1, AL.com recruiting. Every week, we're going to break down the top recruits in the state of Alabama, have a big feature on a guy. And Ben, this is something that we've been working for a few weeks now, something we're really excited to kick off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. Everybody, is all into recruiting, obviously, Alabama, where our focus is going to be, although, we'll talk about other people, I'm sure that Auburn and Alabama are interested in, but it's a great year coming up, 2022, heavy with prospects in Alabama. And, my passion is high school sports and watching these recruiting guys. And obviously there's a lot of interest in that. So I'm fired up to talk about them, and I'm excited about this show. So I'm glad to be doing it with you.
Yeah, Ben, absolutely. Every year, Alabama is absolutely stacked with talent. Like you said, guys that are going to go play for the Tide, going to go play for the Tigers. And today we're going to feature one guy who is going to be a premier back in Tuscaloosa, is Geneva County running back Emmanuel Henderson. He's one of our top 10 recruits that Ben has put together for us. A guy that's really, really stood out on the playing field, Ben, for Geneva County, a smaller school, but wow, he's been incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting. Emmanuel is from the Wiregrass, obviously Geneva County, Hartford. And so I feel like he doesn't get quite as much attention as maybe some other recruits in big markets like Birmingham and Mobile and Huntsville. But he deserves it. He's some people have him as the number 1 running back in the country, Simone, and certainly at least number 2. And he's the number 2 prospect in the state. So a great player. Obviously, he committed to Alabama a couple of weeks ago, and one of the top players in the state. So I'm excited to see more from him this year.
Yeah, one thing that we know about running backs when it comes to Alabama, just such a significant part of the offense for the Tide, really regardless of who the offensive coordinator is. Ben, we had the opportunity to speak with Bob Striplin, and you know that a coach like that has got to be excited to have a back like that, to help run his offense.
Yeah, and I've talked to Coach Striplin numerous times, and he's just told me how much it means to have Emmanuel there. He's a school guy, a team guy, and it brings obviously publicity to the school and to the town, and just a guy who plays multiple sports there. So a great fit there for Geneva County, and a good representative of their school and town.
Yeah, and if anybody understands what it takes to be successful at the SEC level, it is Coach Bob Striplin. Again, I caught up with him. We're going to take that interview now. He played quarterback at Auburn, so he totally understands what it takes to be successful at the next level. To the show, and Coach, of course, talking about your running back today, Emmanuel Henderson. Just what type of guy is he? We see his talent on the field, but just off the field, who is this guy?
Yeah, Simone, thanks for having me today. This is pretty cool. But yeah, anytime I can talk about Emmanuel, I'm glad to do it. He's a great kid. I think the first thing that stands out about him, he's just a great athlete. He's an athletic-minded kid. So, when you want to talk sports, he's eager to talk about it. He's eager to accept advice, and can't wait to see what he can do from here on out.
Absolutely. What type of guy, in your opinion, he commits to Alabama? He's headed to play at arguably the best program in the country, one of the top coaches that have ever coached football, of course, in Coach Saban. What type of player is he going to be in Tuscaloosa, in your opinion?
I've followed SEC football closely for years, and beyond. So, I know what kind of athlete that the SEC can use, and he won't be out of a fish out of the water by any stretch of imagination. He's really dynamic. He can play downhill football from behind the quarterback. They can use him out in the slot because he's really dynamic out in the open field. But he'll remind you of somebody like a Darren McFadden that played back in the late 90s. Went on to play for the Cowboys. Just got great strength, great agility, and he's really a kid that has a good firm grasp of the game in general. So he's going to be a weapon for whatever they decide to use him at.
Coach Striplin, you obviously have a great understanding of SEC football, what it takes to be successful at that level, having played at Auburn. How do you see his talent kind of translate on the field? Is he the sort of guy that can go in and make a pretty quick impact, in your opinion?
You know, a couple of years ago, I took him to a few football camps, and the advice I gave him was to, you know, don't wait back in the back of the line. Hey, go ahead and get up front, you know, because if you don't, you'll get the pecking orders established pretty quick. So, you know, I didn't really need to tell him that because he's going to get in the front of the line anyway. But that's the kind of guy he's going to be. He's going to want to come in. He's going to want to play, and he's hungry, and he's an athletic-minded kid. And I think the biggest thing that's going to translate from this level up to the next is just his eagerness to compete and his eagerness to win. And I think that on top of his just natural athletic ability is going to be what puts him in his place at the next level.
For Alabama fans who have watched just Alabama's program be so running back heavy and such talented guys dating back to, I mean, years, especially during the Saban era, is there a guy that you've seen on the roster at Alabama throughout these last few years who maybe you can compare his style to or his build to?
You know, he really kind of reminds me a lot of like a T.J. Yeldon, that type of player. But I think he's not to say anything bad about T.J. Yeldon. He's a tremendous back, but I think potentially he's got the tools to be maybe even more dynamic than he was, because I think they could use him at the slot as opposed just in the backfield. But at the same time, he can run downhill and he's got breakaway speed. So I think Coach Saban and staff just really did a good job getting a great player, and they're going to have a lot of different opportunities to use him in different places.
I saw on social media that he got a couple basketball offers. Is he like a dual sport guy at the next level, or do you think? I mean, that's really hard to do, especially in an SEC school. How good is he on the court?
You know, he's just such a tremendous athlete. He's got great speed. You know, one thing that really stands out to me when he plays basketball is he's just so fast. He can go from coast to coast in no time, and he's a great defender. He's got quick hands, long arms, big hands. And he's done things that I haven't really seen a lot of guys do. Like he could steal the ball if you're coming right at him. You know, he can stick his hand out and steal it so fast before you know what happened to him. I mean, we used to play basketball, me and him in the gym back when he was in 9th and 10th grade. But I probably wouldn't even try to play him anymore. But
I bet that didn't turn out well for you.
Got a great jumper too. So.
How did those games turn out?
Well, usually the faculty wins those student faculty games. So we'll try to figure out a way this year to where he don't get to play in that game.
That would be good. That would be good. As a football coach, I bet you probably don't want him playing in that game either. So.
No, well said.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, how big is this for your program at Geneva County to have a kid that's going not only to an SEC school, but going to Alabama, an in-state guy? What does that do for your program, kind of putting y'all on the map, and then guys in your program getting able to see that and how that hard work pays off?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that question because, you know, being a guy who came back home to coach here, I actually graduated from here in 1995. And, you know, when I came back, one of my goals is try to, you know, put us on the map as far as recruiting goes, get a few guys going to college. And, you know, every day in the weight room, you know, that's the main thing I talked about. Hey, how's your ACT? Have you registered with the NCAA clearinghouse? And now finally that's starting to be validated because you got a guy that's going to the next level. Yep. And these other kids, I mean, they see Nick Saban come in the gym and, you know, there's no denying what can happen here. And, yeah, it's definitely put us on the map and we're really proud of it.
I know the coach, you know, you're not going to pick sides, but as a player, you did pick a side. You were at Auburn. So for you, obviously, I know that you're excited for Emmanuel to go anywhere. Was it like in the back of your mind, like, hey, man, you know, they got a decent program over there on the Plains. You want to look over there at all?
Well, another good question, another tough question. But, you know, I think what the main thing I try to do is educate him on what to expect at the next level. And then, you know, introducing the staff to him on both sides. And just when it comes down to it, it's his decision. It's a decision he's going to have to live with. And I just told him I was going to support him in any decision he did make. And I feel like any of those offers are going to be tremendous and you can't go wrong with a single one. So I'm really proud of it.
Having that decision for him. All right, guys. So a really great interview there with Coach Bob Striplin talking about his star running back, Emmanuel Henderson, of course, headed to play for Nick Saban at Alabama. And a guy that I think you got that vibe there, Ben, a minute ago, that he's a dynamic back who's done a ton for this program, really, really has put Geneva County on the map.
Just to go over some of his stats, our listeners and viewers might want, he's rushed for about 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns last year. He missed 3 games with an injury.
Wow.
So that tells you how talented he is. He's about 6'1", 190. Coach Striplin in this interview and previously before had brung up Darren McFadden as somebody that reminds. That's pretty high praise, the former Arkansas star.
Yeah,
and I can see where he's talking about. They're both kind of long backs with long strides, and so I can see that. I was also interested in this interview, Simone, that you did, that he brought up T.J. Yeldon, because T.J. Yeldon, as Alabama fans will remember, was a great back, very consistent back in Tuscaloosa, one of the early backs for Nick Saban. And of course, I saw a lot of him down here in Daphne. He was a star for Glenn Vickery at Daphne, and I saw him against Fairhope one time. I think he ran for 350 yards or something like that on national TV. So, that's pretty high praise for those two guys. So if Emmanuel Henderson is any combination of those two guys, Alabama's going to be in good shape, not like they're not already, but going to continue to be in good shape for years to come.
We're going to have that entire interview posted on social media. But later in that interview, I spoke to Coach Striplin about how he has maybe spoken with Emmanuel about handling the staff turnover at Alabama. Of course, often the Tides see assistant coaches going to other programs. It just happened to Steve Sarkisian going to Texas. Everybody wants a piece of Alabama. And so I asked Coach Striplin how maybe he has discussed the staff turnover when it comes to Sark, Bill O'Brien getting hired as now the offensive coordinator with the Tide. And what he told me is that right now he's spending time watching the Texans from what their offense looked like when Bill O'Brien was the head coach in Houston to kind of help Emmanuel understand what that offense looked like, maybe give him an idea of what it could look like in Tuscaloosa. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Another thing that Coach Striplin said, Ben, he heard there in the interview, was that he thinks he's a guy that can go in and make a pretty quick impact. And not often do you see that at the running back position in Tuscaloosa.
You're right. Normally they have multiple backs, obviously, who kind of share the load. And obviously they're stacked. I mean, they are every year. So for anybody to come in there and make headway, right away is going to be tough. But he certainly has that talent. He had more than 30 offers, Simone. I think Will Muschamp in South Carolina was his first offer as a sophomore, and they just kept rolling in from that. You talked to Coach Striplin, and I think it's interesting that the week before his commitment, which was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, on a Saturday he committed, he got 3 basketball offers, big-time SEC basketball offers, Auburn, Georgia, Ole Miss. I don't know if they were trying to get in there and get some football, hey, you can come play basketball here too, that type of thing. All those schools certainly wanted him to come play football, but he is a talented basketball player as well, made the All-State team, I think, that was released this past week. So, Alabama's getting a talented kid who's very personable. I've talked to him several times, and it's going to be intriguing to see what type of season he has in his senior year there at Geneva County.
So overall, when you're getting SEC offers, not only on football field, but also the basketball court, that the bottom line is this guy is an athlete. He can get it done, and clearly getting it done academically and as a teammate as well. Coach Striplin had nothing but very, very high praise on and off the field for his star running back who has one more year at Geneva County. And he is one of the top guys in the class of 2022. And Ben, you put together a list of kind of what the top 10 guys in our state look like. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at that, Patrick. As you can see here, a lot of these guys still kind of have their recruitment open at this point.
Yeah, and this is kind of just a general list, Simone. Most of these guys are in the top. It's going to fluctuate, obviously, as it does every year. At AL.com, we do our A-list of top 15 seniors every summer. We'll be cranking that out, and might look, considerably different than this, might not. And also we do our Super Southeast. So that's stuff that we'll have this summer that we'll obviously also be able to talk about on this show, which we plan on being on at, 12:30 every Wednesday. We hope you guys will keep tuning in. But, nobody's doubting the number one guy is Jeremiah Alexander. From Thompson, the defensive end. They've won the last 2 state championships up there under Mark Freeman. Simone,
and among boys, he is.
Yeah, I was going to say up there, you've been in Birmingham. You've seen him and that team a lot. He was committed to Alabama, most people will remember, and decommitted middle of last year. And I talked to him about that and Coach Freeman, and they kind of just said, look, he was getting so many questions about it. He just kind of wanted to concentrate on Thompson right now and not be considered an Alabama commit. But he's since narrowed it down to 5. Alabama's one of those 5. Georgia's one. And I think a lot of people still think he'll end up at Alabama, but he has not made that decision yet. It's interesting to me, Simone, that, of these recruits here, we see only 3, like you said, have committed. 2 to Alabama. Robert Woodyard is a linebacker for Williamson down here in my neck of the woods in Mobile. He's been committed for almost a year now. Long-time Alabama commit, and a guy who's been on the radar for really since he was a freshman. He's going to be a beast out of the Reuben Foster type mode. He's got Alabama fans are going to be really happy about him. And then, other guys like Curtis Perry from Park Crossing is a guy that's really making a move. He's got a lot of offers from the Montgomery area, so watch out for him. And from Oxford, Trequon Fegans.
I was going to talk to you about Trequon. Yeah.
Super go ahead.
Talented.
Yeah,
and
I was
going to say a super talented guy. I mean, up here, definitely somebody who, day in and day out. I mean, Keith Etheridge has been the head coach there over at Oxford. Now he's over at Auburn High School. But, man, I went over to one of their practices one day, and Fegans just an unbelievable talent for the Yellow Jackets and a guy who has SEC offers. I'm just looking at the list here. He's got Georgia, South Carolina, maybe an Alabama offer there, Arkansas. So Fegans definitely a guy to look out for. I think he's going to have a great senior season. So regardless of the coaching turnover, I mean, when it comes to Oxford, they have athletes year in and year out. And Ben, I wanted to point out on this list here, we only have 1 quarterback listed. And that's Tanner Bailey. And I know that you're really, really high on this kid, not only as a player, but also as a person.
Yeah, I've talked to him a couple times. One thing, there hadn't been a lot of positive things about the pandemic, Simone, but one positive thing for me is early on, last year about this time when everybody was shut down, one thing I could do was talk to high school coaches, talk to high school recruits. And so I really got to know pretty much all these kids in this class. And so I feel like I know them all pretty well. I've talked to most of them multiple times. And Tanner Bailey is a kid, he's an interesting kid because he's basically an Auburn and an Alabama legacy, which is very rare. His dad played for Auburn. His granddad was in Bear Bryant's first recruiting class in Alabama. Wow. But, just a week or two ago, he committed to Oregon, which I think kind of surprised some people. It surprised me. Maybe other recruiting experts were on top of that. But really good kid. He's a great prospect. He missed a lot of time last year. I think he missed 5 games with a broken collarbone, but still led Gordo to the state championship game. So he's going to have a good senior year.
Yeah, Patrick, I think we had a couple highlights from Tanner Bailey, and we're really excited because next week he is going to be the guy that we feature. And like you said, Ben, over at Gordo, he really, really has been fantastic. And just looking at his list of offers that he's gotten, Alabama and Auburn had huge interest in him. Duke as well, Florida State. He's going to go play for Mario Cristobal there at Oregon. And, I think that, from what I've seen on film, what I've seen in person in a game or two from Bailey is that he's just a fantastic pro-style guy who has great awareness and has really, really brought this Gordo program to life.
He really is a multi-sport guy, Simone. I mean, a lot of these guys, if you look on this list, play multiple sports. Tanner playing baseball right now. So, in fact, the day he committed to Oregon, I tried to get in touch with him, and he didn't get back to me, which is rare for him. And he called me back early the next morning. He said, "Hey, sorry, Ben. I had 1,140 notifications, Twitter and email." He said, "And here's what I respected, Simone." He said, "I'm trying to get back to all of them." Can you imagine that?
That's awesome.
Golly. Back to Fegans real quick, Simone. He's one of several Fegans brothers. They call it Fegan Island in Oxford. And really a top defensive back in this class. And Sam Adams, who just took that job from Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, you mentioned it. He's got a lot of weapons over there. This is one of the primary ones.
Yeah, he definitely does. We're looking forward to kind of making our way through this list in the coming episodes here on AL.com Recruiting. This has been episode 1. It's been super, super fun to break down Emmanuel Henderson, Coach Jim Bob Striplin. We appreciate his time, of course, getting to know his player and kind of his program. Ben, just to recap, Emmanuel, again, I really think going to be a big-time talent for Nick Saban in that system. And I think it's pretty impressive that he's already watching film from what Bill O'Brien incorporated with a pro team in the Texans.
Yeah, like I said, some people already have this guy, Emmanuel, as the number 1 running back recruit in the nation. And, as good as Alabama has recruited, I'm not sure they their guys have been number one recruiting in the nation as far as their running back. So this is how talented this guy is.
Yep.
Number 2 prospect overall behind Jeremiah Alexander in our state.
Definitely. So a couple guys that are committed to Alabama, a couple more that could be going to Alabama. But next week, we're going to highlight Gordo quarterback Tanner Bailey. He's got SEC offers. He's deciding to go play in the Pac-12 with commitment to Oregon. We will speak to him next week right here, Wednesday, 12:30. Be sure to tune in to episode 2. But for Ben Thomas, for Patrick Greenberg, and all the guys here at AL.com Recruiting, we appreciate your time. I'm Simone Eli, and we'll see you next